Good morning! This is a YouTube video. Today it's a tech video day. We're going to talk about what is model view model. Wait, sorry. We're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? Model? No, we're going to talk about view model view. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that. As I said, it's a tech video today, so we're going to talk about tech topics. These are relatively short videos, so it's a little bit tricky to get a whole bunch of fine-grained detail in here. So we're going to do this at a high level, but I'm quite familiar with model view architecture because of some of the businesses I've worked in, and I've also built some software systems from the ground up to be model view. What is model view? Now, some of you might be familiar with model view controller architecture, and what that is all about the model. That's the database. That's kind of the lowest resolution of your application. That's the data you collect. That's data to do with the application. That could be the application state. That's all stored in the data. There's something rattling around in my car. Excuse me for a moment, because that's going to be quite distracting in the audio. Okay, so model view. So model, we're talking about the database, the lowest resolution of your application. View, that's what you see. That's the front end. That is the interface in which you view the model data, right? That is all of that. The controller, we're talking about model view controller right now. The controller is what controls the data. It's what transforms the data. It's what executes, well, you know, depending on what part of the stack you're on, it transfers or inserts the data into the database. It queries the database. It gets data out of the database and it puts data in. It transforms the data into a easy to consume structure for the view to show the data to the world, you know, to show your very important business logic to the world. That's model view controller. What we're talking about in model view is, I think I've seen it described as model view, but essentially we're chucking another view onto the stack. So model view controller, we have one view. That could be, for example, if you're a developer and you are building a small internet business, for example, say you have an e-commerce site, that's a good example. You might have your front end, which could be, you know, a React front end, which a user will come to buy things from your e-commerce store. Say you're selling shirts. I really want to buy a new shirt. So I go onto the website, I look at the front end. Wow, this beautiful front end. This is all data. This could be the item data. So you might have, say, shirt items table, right? And that will have, you know, the quantity of the shirt. It will have the shirt ID, the primary key of that table. It might have color variations, and you might have other types of data in that table. So I glossed over that so quickly. I want to get through this. I want to get through it. We have a table for our e-commerce site that sells shirts, and you come and you see the view, and that's the React front end, okay? When you make a purchase, all right, you might need to create a user profile for that purchase. A lot of e-commerce sites, you don't need to do that anymore. Or at least not obviously. Sometimes they create it in the background, which isn't a bad idea, but obviously data leaks these days are a bit of a problem, so sometimes you might store it, sometimes you might not. But essentially, you're taking what the user does on the front end, you're using the controller to put that into the database and do something smart with it. Now, let's say, for example, this shirt business does extremely well because it turns out people really love t-shirts. So, you know, your business is going off. All of a sudden, you need people who aren't as technical as the developers doing work on your e-commerce side. You need them to follow up orders. You need them to update what's in the warehouse into the database. So they're doing this manual entry or uploading CSVs, and you're using some kind of other method to get the data into the model, into your database. You need another view. And that's what people typically talk about when they're talking about two views on a model view controller architecture. You have a view for your customers and you have a view for admin. You have a view for even third parties. So say you have you have vendors who sell other different types of shirts. Think of like an ASOS type of business. You might be Fendi, you might be Riri, and Riri's saying, oh, I really need to update the stock that we have on offer for ASOS. So you go into the ASOS admin panel, you log in as Riri, and then you will update all of the quantities and different products in that interface. That's essentially a view model. It's whenever you have two different views on the same model architecture, and that ASOS is just an example. It's a very large system. I'm sure that is not how it's built, but that's what we're talking about when we're talking about model view controller and any variation of those words. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. And you might ask, well, is this a good architecture for me to build, like, insert X app? And it depends on what your requirements are. I think if it's large enough and you need humans to go in regularly and update the data, that's a great idea. If it's a small business and all of the people who work on the business are tech people, they're developers and they know SQL, you might just be able to use a good server, a good database server. So, or something like DataGrip. DataGrip is a JetBrains product, and that enables you to essentially view all of your database tables, do various operations on them, and connect to them remotely if you have them remotely, and I'm sure, and locally as well. So, and that might be fine. You might only need to update those, or update the database using a technical person. But of course, the reason why you might not want to do that is because you need a bit of a background in tech, so you don't do anything terrible. You don't delete things accidentally, drop or call users. You don't want this. So that's one of the reasons why, because when you build the view for the admin, you can add extra handling, extra control over the data. That's pretty much why we're doing it. I parked in the middle of the road. I parked in the keep clear section. So I'm gonna turn the phone off just in case someone starts having a go at your boy. Have a great day. This is a YouTube video. See ya.